Hello everyone, it's Kevin and it is time to power on and take you back to a time before quest markers, before tutorials, and before open worlds were everywhere. Back when there was a gold cartridge that ended up being one of the most important games of all time. This is the original The Legend of Zelda. And whether you realize it or not, it changed gaming forever. Back in the days, gaming was a lot more simple. There was no internet to rely on, you had to adventure on and find your own way. It was 1986, and this game didn't guide you. The best it could do was come with an instruction manual and a map that you could use to track your journey. The game barely handed you a sword, and expected you to figure it all out. 40 years later, and we're still chasing that feeling you rarely get today. When Zelda released on the NES, most games followed common formulas such as move left to right, beat levels in order, chase high scores, etc. Even something as legendary as Super Mario Bros. Was built around precision movements and progression to the right of the screen. But Zelda? It was a perfect blend of real-time combat, exploration, and puzzle solving. Zelda was also built around curiosity. You start in an open field, with no direction, no objective marker, and just a cave nearby. And as I alluded to earlier, if you ignored that cave, the game didn't stop you. You're probably thinking that I'm over-exaggerating that part, but people actually commented on my YouTube shorts saying that they walked around a while without a sword. This sense of curiosity and adventure became the foundation of the entire series. Creator Shigeru Miyamoto has said that the game was inspired by exploring caves and forests as a child in Japan. So the sense of curiosity tracks. This game sold over 6 million copies. That made it one of the best-selling NES games ever at the time. It proved long-form adventure games was a possible endeavor and it could succeed. Admittedly, I was one of the late adopters of this game. Of course, I wasn't even born yet when it was released, but I actually owned Zelda 2 before it. Interestingly enough though, I was so frustrated with Zelda 2 that I traded it in for this game along with RBI Baseball. I guess I won that one. Back to this game though. Zelda didn't just give you a map, it gave you options. You could tackle dungeons in different orders, you could wander into areas that you weren't prepared for, or you could discover something purely by accident. And the only thing the game would do to signify this is that you would get destroyed by going the wrong way. It let you fail, and that failure taught you how to play. However, I could not call it fully open world, as you can't go fight Ganon right off the bat like you could in Breath of the Wild. But this game was a great start to the formula. Speaking of Ganon, no one knew who or what he was until they got to the end of this game. All we got was the manual and the text scroll that said his name, but nothing ever actually showed or described him. Now obviously, by modern day standards the graphics are simple. There were small sprites, limited animations, and screen-by-screen transitions. But in 1986 this was super ambitious. The overworld was 128 screens big, each made of 16 by 8 grids. There were distinct regions and recognizable enemies, not to mention the fantasy setting that felt cohesive on 8-bit hardware. It wasn't flashy, but it didn't need to be, because the real immersion came from what the game let you do. And that design is what lasted. Zelda introduced something console players hadn't really experienced before. A battery save system. You could turn the game off, or even die and come back to your progress. Before that, we had password systems that were either simple or just insane. Or some games would just make you start over. That's just how things were back then. This was one of the first console games that respected your time enough to let you save. That small innovation helped legitimize longer adventures on home consoles. And while Zelda didn't invent exploration, it popularized it. This wasn't an arcade experience. This was designed with the journey in mind. Zelda was a game that didn't hide secrets as bonuses. Secrets were part of the level design. You would go around burning random bushes, bombing random walls, or pushing suspicious blocks. Sometimes there was clues, sometimes there weren't. The world itself became the puzzle. One key tip I heard back in the day was that every screen on the overworld would only have one secret. This isn't the case in Dungeons, however. This game design philosophy would echo decades later in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and even games like Elden Ring and Dark Souls. The idea that exploration is the reward, that was perfected here. What is nice is that every major Zelda entry builds on 1986, even the sequel in some ways. The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past refined the structure, Ocarina of Time translated into 3D space, and the Wind Waker embraced bold exploration. And then finally, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild returned to the roots of the series and expanded on it. It gave you freedom with minimal direction, and it trusted in the player. Breath of the Wild wasn't a reinvention, it was a return to the roots, back to 1986. Of course I have to mention that this game also introduced the Triforce, which is still one of my favorite concepts in gaming. The overworld theme became one of the most iconic pieces of video game music ever. The intro theme would be reused many times over the years, and it was all composed under the strict NES hardware limitations. An interesting thought for all of you folks to think about is where this game falls on the Zelda timeline. This game takes place near the end of the timeline where Link is defeated by Ganon in Ocarina of Time. It really makes you think about how desolate and lonely the world is, and it brings a new light to the old men and moblins that are hiding in caves. The sequel even reflects the world rebuilding after Ganon's defeat. How does the game look nowadays? Well, let's be honest. Most people will use a guide to play this game in 2026, but if you're a purist, the original Zelda is tough to approach blind. It's vague, it's punishing, and it expects patience. Grinding for rupees can feel slow, late dungeons can feel brutal and confusing, but that sense of mystery, that still plays. The game encourages you to sink hours into it through exploration and adventure, and the feeling of discovering something without being told, that never gets old. There is replayability as well. There is a whole second quest once you beat the game, or you could enter the name Zelda at the start to unlock it immediately. That replay value was huge and extremely rare for the time. 40 years later, gaming is obviously way bigger now. The Zelda titles, along with other adventure games, are now more cinematic and more guided. They obviously have a lot more polish to go with that package as well. But we often forget that this simple looking game inspired many of these games that we love. Nintendo went all in and crafted a game that was like nothing else at the time. They poured all of their energy into it, and the love they had for it still shines bright today. We didn't see anything like it until The Link to the Past. Sorry, Zelda 2. What Zelda didn't do back then was try to impress you with spectacles or set pieces. It impressed you by giving you a grand world at your fingertips and by trusting you. Trusting you to explore it, experiment with things, to get lost, and to find your way back. 40 years later, when you deeply think about it, the series as a whole, along with the games that it inspired, we are still exploring the world that it created. Happy 40th anniversary to one of my favorite games of all time. And that's a wrap. It is time to reboot. I will see you on the other side.